Hello and welcome as we are heading into Saturday, the first day of July 2017. My name is Derek. Let's take a look at some cryptocurrencies. And throughout the week, I have been posting a few amount of buy orders. Most of them, if not really all of them, are at key Fibonacci areas, in most cases back to where it was before. And I stated on the 25th of June that if this thing rolls over, we have a situation of these resistance levels. This was also support, but it was also the next key Fibonacci mark. And 1,000 was the bottom today or on Friday. Yes, 1,000 even. And I got in at 1,007. Price has shot up to 12. So as a trader, I'll trade half of it now and sell, which is the case. Sell the other half within the around the 14 or so handle. And if you want to try, if some strategies might be sell it all in here or sell some here, try to get new gains because it's a bull market. You know what? Do what you need to do. But for me, that's how I look to go for. I'm looking at a play that's either bullish or bearish to happen. And a move to 14 is just that. Let's move on to Bitcoin. But before I do, I'll continue to post some of these orders like this. But as we move on the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, the post will, at least on Steemit, will remain very low. Now on to the Bitcoin chart, which is kind of boring, a little bit of movement as it has had a little bit of selling. Movement towards this 18 average of lows. I've been talking a lot about this sideways movement. And even though the band is in a declining state, that just means within the short term neutrality with a down bias. However, with this uptrend, this whole neutrality is big time with the up bias because oftentimes these sideways and even price correction movements, if of course the price correction movements hold in transition as bullishly they would, result themselves in the uptrends and higher highs eventually later. And that's normally what has been happening, and there's a good chance that should continue to come into play. A duration of time for how long this can go neutral, or if there's going to be a neutral move that's going to have any possible previous support test. Of course, the next one being at around 1800, 1750 down to 17ish ballpark. If, of course, this support level doesn't hold, but within this is all sideways consolidation, basically. Within Ethereum, and its daily time frame pattern recognition after such an incredible uptrend, the market has went sideways, and right now, interesting situation should come into play. And it looks as if it's going to be a bearish one after situation making this support and a bunch of correcting. Huge pierce below, breaking around the price we're at now, around 268, and falling a little north of 200 on two different occasions. And since that point, a beautiful rally from the final fall of around 200 and something up to over 300. So there's a gain of over 50%, just boom, just quickly like that, short term. And when you have situations when you could rise from around $40 up to about 400, a 10x gain, well, then you're going to have wild movements that are more likely to continue along its course, along its path. And pattern recognition in here is when you resist this band after a situation like this, which is leg one lower, the establishment of support. That when you're leaving this band in here, you see price action right now south of 250. There's definitely a reason where at least you would have a test of the support mark. And if that doesn't happen, and I have to think right now it's the favorite to do so looking at this chart, but if a down move of at least in here doesn't play out, then that is setting up for one decent size a bull setup. When you come down here, make a good move, but then this last three periods is really weak. I mean, this one here, okay, not so bad. You have two green ups and back to this band, back to this support. That's bullish, but that's not the continuation you want after a period like that. That is very bearish after a situation of two candles up, one down like that within its band as it's playing. You would have liked to see within the last couple periods some sort of movement that could at least get you back to the top of this range. No, it's right now flirting with the bottom end of this support level, and definitely a cautionary sign for leg number 2 lower. And then when we switch it to the cross with Bitcoin, pretty much the exact same pattern with this failed move, the 2 period up, and then how this 2 period has been weak after its what could have been and what still might be the decent price correction on this particular period. Hasn't went up 10 times on this because Bitcoin has been doing well, maybe closer to 5 times. Let's move on to the next one. And that'll be Dash on the daily time frame. And you know what? Within this chart, watching this bullish formation transpire recently is almost like watching the grass grow. It's doing what it's supposed to, slowly but surely. In fact, with all the rain in southern Ontario, Canada, in fact, the grass growing has been a lot more exciting. But nonetheless, this pattern, which I talk about, this smiley face formation, how big this resistance is, and oftentimes when you have these situations, gigantic move up, long sideways consolidation that eventually you're going to resolve in the path of least direction, which is higher. And within trend analysis, when you break the key points, and the key points is in here, already broken, and even in here as well too, but pretty much it's the same area. And then this point in here, which was tested, practically taken out, but you know what, my book, no, that's a retest. And last time it had a deep correction and a huge correction. Now it's had an okay correction and sideways for a few periods, riding the upper end of this 18 average. That's a very strong picture as I'm looking at this. This is showing signs like a decent, at least maybe the size of this green candle, should be forming in the near term, at least one that I think probably within the next 24 hours should have a test of this level. Of course, time will only tell, but right now that's what I'm seeing as far as not an unlikely, or more so a likely favorite. Moving on to the classic Ethereum, and you know what? I don't need to say much more. It's obvious what this trend is doing. I will state within the obvious sideways movement that each of these periods are really starting to get smaller and smaller. It's almost like taking a sandwich of some sort and trying to shrink the size of things, making it like a really tight wedge, if you will. It's another way of stating that soon there should be a big move, because this is almost like a major indecisive, like an indecision point, because that's what these markets really are, is a form of indecision. And this is a massive, like a flex point for the indecision that will often result itself. But again, that could just be a decent move, whether it's down a test of this previous support down to this one, and then up a test of these two resistance points, and that's all it might be within further correction. So you really can't say just because something is going to have to spark soon that it's going to be bigger than what I just stated, which is a resistance test and then the support test here. Litecoin, and I like how this is playing out as far as technical analysis is concerned, as this obvious support came where the market used to be, and a consolidation point or trading wedge in here. And after this move higher, it has been correcting very nicely within such. It hasn't got the amazing movements near the 18 average of highs by any means. It's this little move in here sets the possibility for that failed breakdown, but for what it's worth, it's still within the correctionary phase. When the market was going up, I didn't want to buy it because I wanted for it to settle in, and it settled in. So at situations like this, strategies are, okay, you just want to wait till it's settled in and you get in here. So that's the equivalency of getting in here, which maybe you could have got in here. And then oftentimes you're buying up here and you're seeing yourself with bigger losses. Maybe you want to see a deeper correction, or you want to see some sort of break outside the 18 average of highs. You want to see a break this point. Whichever strategy you look for, those are the ones that can do pretty decent. Let's move on to the next one. That'll be Ripple, and it's all the same, sideways, very much indecisive moment. There really is no there's no bias to the neutrality. I can't say it's neutrality with an up or a down bias. Yes, it does have this significant gain, and its previous movements hasn't been so decent before. And of course, this is one that's been criticized by being run by the bankers, and maybe for good reason. But whether throwing that reason aside, I want no part of this until I can either see a better bullish setup play in, and I definitely need an 18 rising average in a few days, minimum. And the next one is for price action to fall a bit. And right now, the first level is in here, and you could even consider going down towards in here. So that leaves in the close to 4,000, and then again at around 2,500 as areas in which it could very easily fall to. And that's significant risk when you consider where you would stand at 10,000 if it falls 70%, 75%. But as far as a buyer in these situations, that's bullish and bearish. Just like on the intro of the video, I'm looking for spots where I think if it goes there, it's probably going to bounce relatively quick, but at least have a decent shot of rallying, whether it's going to further move higher or lower. So in a situation like that, it breaks down. Okay, so I'm going to buy in here. I realize that if it's bullish, it's going to go up. That's a no-brainer. But if it's bearish, I realize it can go like this and then go like that. So by having my buy order here, selling in here, I don't care what happens afterwards because I won't have a position. Let's move on. NEM also remains one that I want no part of at this time. And if you break this support, where do you go? Do you go here? Do you go here? And quite frankly, these TradingView logarithmic charts are not the greatest. So I'm going to run some Fibonacci calculations on here, but I want to see the low clearly a lot better and actually find the exact number. And that number is a low one at 285. So let's bring up the calculator. And the high is almost 14,000. So the key down numbers are 31 and 1260. So 31, well, the 1260 is a ways away. So technically speaking, in or around this area here. 31, definitely 3,000. If they usually pierce them when they go. So what would have occurred would have been a 23.6 correction. So you would see that number, the 7641, probably in and around this current number at 65 or 5581. Let's see how well that number plays. Not that good. Not that good. Because that's this. I wouldn't even put a buy order there for that very reason. This was what I call a Fibonacci fail. Because again, the charts are hard to read, but this was the liftoff support. Why this market? And maybe if it did on another exchange, I guess it did work. And maybe I'm just going at the fact that almost all of them pierce extra within it, which is why I say if there's a fib point here, I want to buy like here, because that's usually what they do. But yeah, it's even difficult because you can say this is a key level. Well, maybe it is here. So to me, I want no part of this. And finally, let's take a look at code BTM, which is Bitmark, and why I think a 31 buy order might be a decent play. A 31 buy order would be somewhere in the neck of the woods in here. And this thing is falling apart. There has been 3, 4, 5, I'm looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 consecutive days down. That's not good. And maybe it's going to be a fast move like in the next couple of days, or maybe you're going to have a little bit of movement before it happens, and maybe it doesn't happen at all. And that's the beauty part about buy orders. If you don't mind holding Bitcoins, and quite frankly, I think for myself, I have no choice but to, then why not place them in buy orders? Because if they don't hit, well, there's your Bitcoin doing what Bitcoin does, holding value, like holding units. I have one Bitcoin there, and I still have one Bitcoin there in my buy orders. So be it. And if they hit, well, then of course you've got a trade in play, and that's what you're looking for. So that's why I like the whole buy order situation. So I'm not saying a market's going to go there, but I'm thinking oftentimes if it does, I'm going to want to buy, and I'm going to look for buy orders that I think are realistic to happen in the near term. And this is one that I think is going to be the case. Now, within the Fibonacci retracement within it, well, 31's the number. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the high of 85.2 and the low of 6,000, which has the first Fibonacci support at 45.6 and then 31 even. So the 45.6 number, which was in play here, worked out beautifully. So therefore, in a 30, you can even go, 31, you'd probably want to go 30,002. People like to play those psychological numbers. Oftentimes, they're hitting. And when you look at key highs and lows, don't be surprised on many of the occasions that the key numbers, like 1,000 or 50,000 Satoshis, whichever key number it is, are the tops and bottoms. It's happening a lot. But anyway, that's one idea. And then if you're looking for a deeper correction than that, then the level below would be 16,000. And that's an insane fall of 50%. But you know what? I've seen a lot of those happen. 16,000 would represent this level in here. And it's unlikely to happen, but it's definitely possible. I'd like to thank you for tuning in, and have yourself a great, at least in North America, long weekend. Or Canada Day, and then the 4th of July is coming up on Tuesday. So I don't know I don't know how you would take the day off. You take Monday and Tuesday off, I think they would take. Anyway, have yourself a great weekend. Take care.